DDA. When I became the city manager of Ferndale in February 2007, I became the city staff person who is ultimately responsible for the automobile parking fund. Up to that point, the Department of Public Works director, the Department of Public Works is the main department that operates the parking system. They collect the meter revenue, prepare the meters, do the maintenance and so forth. That department had pretty much total control over the parking system. I recognized that there had just been a parking study that Jackie referred to, 2006 supply and demand study that had been completed. I recognized that parking is more than just a public works function. There's obviously the DDA component because the downtown businesses and customers are the primary users of that system. There's a police element because the police department does the enforcement. And also looking ahead, knowing that we needed to deal with some financial challenges in the auto parking fund, I appointed a parking committee that consists of the Department of Public Works director, the finance director, the DDA director, and the police chief to get together to look at some of those recommendations that were made in that 2000 study to implement the ones that were feasible and start planning to implement the recommendations that we couldn't do right away. As was previously indicated, we've increased capacity a little bit here and there where we can. We put some on-street parking spaces on Bermuda as well as West Troy Street, and the parking lot, which is still actually technically known as the Road to C. O'Grady's lot. When that was reconstructed last summer, we squeezed a couple more parking spaces into that. We've increased parking rates. We've shifted enforcement hours. It used to be 9 to 9. Now it's 10 to 10. Can we enforce until 2 a.m.? Absolutely, that's an option that we can look at. One of the challenges that we have right now, though, is as the point's been made, that the ticket revenue goes into the general fund through the district court, but the people who write the tickets are paid for out of the auto parking fund. So if we did a full court press on enforcement right now, we'd be spending a bunch of auto parking fund money and increasing revenue in the general fund. So we need to take care of that mismatch before we really kind of fine-tune the enforcement mechanism. We've also conducted the east side parking structure location study where we had a parking consultant come in and look at all the publicly owned parking lots on the east side of Woodward and figure out, okay, if we're going to build a parking structure on the east side, where would it go? And basically the best spot that was identified was the current City Hall lot in between the library and City Hall. As was indicated, we'd already identified the Withington lot as the best location for a west side parking deck. And the City Council also enacted a payment in lieu of parking ordinance, which is a little bit different than the payment in lieu of parking ordinance that we're talking about now. Ferndale's zoning ordinance says that if you have existing private off-street parking in a downtown and you're going to expand a building and eliminate that parking, then you have to replace it somewhere else. So that's kind of hard to do. If you're going to eliminate a few parking spaces here, you got to buy something somewhere else and tear it down. So that ordinance actually allows business owner or property owner, if they eliminate some off-street parking spaces, to make a payment into the auto parking fund, so the auto parking fund can then finance future parking system expansion. So I think that there's a lot that we agree on. We actually agree. I think the city and the DDA agree on more than we disagree on in terms of parking. Up to this point, there was concern that the council had to make a decision regarding the municipal building project in February, and that's actually not the case anymore. I've asked the design build teams that are going to present proposals to the City Council on February 8th to extend their guaranteed maximum prices until Friday, May 7th, which is the charter deadline for when the city council has to adopt the fiscal year budget. So at this point, we don't have to deal with these capital improvement projects today or during the month of February and then sort out the budget later. We can do it all simultaneously in a much more rational way. So I think that's going to be a major process improvement going forward. And I think one of the big things that has been missing in this conversation up to this point has been public input and public participation. It's very difficult in the public sector sometimes to get public participation. You know, we have a lot of meetings and we ask for people's input, and oftentimes what happens is people don't find out until the night that the decision's going to be made and the vote's going to be taken, and you know, folks come out to support, to be for or against something after kind of all the homework has kind of already been done. They weren't part of the process to begin with. So I applaud the DDA for hosting these community forums. I applaud all of you for coming out and participating.
Everyone. Again, I'm Jennifer Rosenberg. I'm the Executive Director at the Ferndale Chamber of Commerce, and I'm very happy to see we have a much better turnout this evening. Our involvement as a chamber is a little bit different than the city and the DDA. We don't really fall under either category. We're a member-based organization that represents our member businesses here in Ferndale. We're nonpartisan and primarily non-political. We like to serve as an information source for the community as well as our member businesses. And that's why we've agreed to come in here this evening and moderate the discussion. As the city and the DDA work toward putting together a plan, it's very important that they look beyond just crunching the numbers and looking at the studies and really take into consideration the human aspect of this. And that's why we're having these community forums, so that they can hear from the community, whether you're a business or a resident, and provide the input. So as we get into the question and answer session, I'm going to lay a few ground rules. I brought my stopwatch. And especially since we have a lot more people here tonight, I want to try to be fair to as many people as possible to have an opportunity to speak, comment, and ask your questions. And Christina's going to be working on taking notes, as well as some of the other folks from the DDA, to try to compile all this. As a reminder, you do have the surveys in front of you. Please fill them out so they can help keep track of who came and whether you're a business or a resident. We're going to try to limit your questions and your comments to a minute each.